Hello everybody, happy Tuesday. Welcome back to the channel for another video today. Thank you for joining me today. I hope that you've had a great start to your week and that you are enjoying the summertime and the warmer weather wherever you are. I'm pretty sure I can assume that it's at least getting slightly warmer nowadays. So today we are actually going to be talking about something that I've been getting asked about a lot recently as somebody that has been on a GLP-1 for over 2 years. Gosh, yeah, we're at 2.5 years at this point, which I didn't even realize. So I just said that out loud. So having been on a GLP-1 for 2.5 years, people ask me all the time if it stops working. Does it stop working at some point? Do you feel like it's doing nothing and that you're just wasting your money at this point on the medication? I get asked that so often, at least once a day. So I decided how I was going to approach this topic was that I was going to find some data or whatever I could find in terms of what the professionals, say should happen over the course of a long time on a GLP-1, and then also share with you guys, after I give you sort of what they say, share what my personal experience has been as well, because I want to offer my personal experience, but I also want to offer what professionals say. So I'm not a doctor. Always ask your doctor for any medical advice, as always. And before changing anything on your dose, before making any major decisions, all of that, please talk to your healthcare provider. This is just my personal experience and what I've been able to find on the internet. So what do they say about whether or not GLP-1s will continue to work for a long time? So the main point that I found that I thought was the most convincing was the fact that GLP-1s have been used for blood sugar regulation for a long time, right? Well before when they were used for weight loss in the early 2000s, we had the first ones coming out and they were used for blood sugar regulation. Now, in all data that has been done specifically targeting the blood sugar regulation effect of GLP-1s, there has not been anything to suggest that any immunity was built in that factor. So it's not working less well over time to help manage diabetes. So I think that's really promising. I'm gonna move this camera slightly in terms of what it can do for weight loss as well, right? Additionally, throughout the several different SURMOUNT studies that have been done, studying specifically Zepbound, because Eli Lilly has sort of headed these SURMOUNT studies, people that lose that initial, they say the 20% rule, right? Which is where you lose that first 20% of your body weight that you needed to lose, or a year or more has gone by and then weight loss starts to slow. And that seems to happen for a very large number of people. I was one. We'll talk about that in a second when I get to my personal side of things. But that seems to happen across the board pretty much, that weight loss will slow down once you hit this sort of certain 20% magic rule number, or have been on it for over a year. But what the study has shown over and over again is that weight loss does not stop, it slows. And if you look at any other type of weight loss thing, diet, whatever you want to call it, it usually does slow down as well. This is for many different factors, right? Again, I'm not a doctor, but this is pretty common stuff. If you start at 300 pounds and you lose down to 200 pounds, your body doesn't have as much to lose anymore. It's not in this state of, I'm morbidly obese, I need to lose a ton of weight. And so it's going to start letting go of it faster, and it's going to start adapting slightly to what you're doing as you're losing the weight. But there has not been any evidence, that's not saying that this isn't true, but there's been no statistical evidence to show that your body will build any type of immunity from the GLP-1 receptor in your body. I wonder if this has something to do with the fact that it's a hormone, that it's a hormone replacement, that you are replacing a hormone that naturally occurs in the body. And so because it is already a part of our body that is a naturally occurring thing, immunity can't really be built up to it. Again, that's me talking out of my backside, but it makes sense to me in my mind that if it's something that naturally occurs. So we could compare this to Fentamine. Love it when people talk about Fentamine here on my channel, because usually they're attacking me for having been on it previously at another time. But I'm going to use that in a more positive light today. So if you have ever taken Fentamine, the first time that you take it, it works so well. Like, you're dropping 20 pounds that first month. It's working great. The longer you take it, it doesn't work as well. It starts to not have the same appetite suppression effect as it did in the very beginning. And this also translates to any subsequent time that you will take Fentamine. Back in the day, like back when I was probably low 20s, like 15 years ago, I had a doctor that I worked for that would prescribe Fentamine, and he would do like a 3-month cycle. So he would tell people to be on it for 3 months and then to go off of it for 3 months. And undoubtedly, like almost every single time people would be on it, they would lose a lot of weight, they would gain back half or more in that 3 months of what they lost. And then when they started up again, they would never lose as much as they did the first time. So they would get low to this really low point, and then they would have to be on it for a long time after that to get back down to the point where they were the first time, because they would gain a little, lose a little. So it was this constant fight and this constant battle of the medication not working as well as it did the first time. There is no evidence, statistical evidence, to suggest that GLP-1s work in that same way. Could that come out in 5, 10, 2 years from now? Yeah, maybe, but there's just not been enough data to really suggest one way or the other to prove it. So there are things that we can say that are speculation. There are other examples and things that we can pull from different studies that are being done, from how different drugs have worked in the past. But until there are really good studies studying this specific portion of GLP-1 use, no one can really say for sure whether or not it is going to stop working. What we can do right now, right, is pull from what other people are experiencing. There is now a very large group of people on the internet that have been on a GLP-1 for a long time. You can find several of us on YouTube, you can find a lot of them on Facebook, and you can find an exorbitant amount of them on TikTok. And what these people are doing is sharing, you know, what I've done, right? So the beginning of my journey all the way up until now, and they're sharing, a lot of them, how GLP-1s have helped them in different ways, and how they're working now, and how life on maintenance is, and all of that. And so gleaning from people that are experiencing the thing that we're all wanting to know, like we're all wanting to know what's going to happen in 3 years or in 5 years or whatever. And so the best way to get that is to glean that information from people that are actually living that portion of their journey, and they're actually there and experiencing it. So with that being said, let's get into my personal story of how this went for me. Now, I did a video probably a month ago back, where I shared my entire journey of losing 100 plus pounds, how long it took me to do that, how many pounds I lost each month. I will try to remember to link that down below if you want to watch the full journey to get an idea of how it all went. That video has done very well. I'm very thankful for that, and it seems to have helped a lot of you guys as well. So I will try to remember to link it. But in this video, I'll give you a little bit of a rundown about it. So I lost 60 pounds in the first 6 months being on Mounjaro. And during that time, I was on branded Mounjaro that entire 6 months, and for a lot longer, but that whole 6 months was branded Mounjaro. And the highest dose that I went up to weekly was 10 milligrams. I never went higher than that. I went to 12 and a half, but at that time I was taking them bi-weekly, and so it wasn't quite the same as taking, 10 weekly. Then after that, it took me 18 months to lose 40 more pounds. So I'm a very good example of somebody, that 20% rule, somebody that lost a bulk of weight, and then weight loss slowed down after that. I'm a classic example of what they say is going to happen happening. It came to fruition with me. Now I will say, this is a question that I get asked a lot as well, is sort of when I switched over to compounded tirzepatide, because that's a question I get all the time too. Like, do you feel like you would have lost weight faster if you would have continued on branded Mounjaro versus switching to compound? Now I lost, the first 6 month point for me was in June or July of 2023. I did not switch to compound until March of 2024. And so I was on branded for over a year, almost a year and a half before switching to compound. And so my weight loss had significantly slowed for 6 whole plus months prior to switching to compound. So I don't necessarily think that played any major role into it. And my weight loss did not slow significantly anymore after switching to compound. In fact, it kind of sped up after that. So it didn't make any major difference when I switched between branded and compound. And that is a question I get often. As I'm saying, this is how long it took me to lose weight. a lot of people like to come and say, okay, well, when did you make that switch? Do you think it had anything to do with it? So there's my answer for that. I don't necessarily notice any major difference, and my weight loss had already slowed a long time before switching over to compound. Now, saying that it slowed down is, anybody can say that, right? But I want to talk about how it specifically changed. So things that I have noticed, and I still notice to this day, 2.5 years into it, things that I notice are different, okay? The number one thing that I notice is different is that fullness feeling in my stomach isn't around anymore. When you first start your journey, you have that sort of like ball in your stomach feeling. I don't have that anymore, and I have not had it probably since that first 6 months. I have not had it for a very long time. Going along with that, the stomach emptying portion of it is also gone. So my stomach has, in my mind, as I just said, I don't know if we adapt, but my body has adapted to a slower digestion. I can say that 100% for myself. I don't have the constipation like I used to. I am regular again. I do get hungry between meals, whereas before I would eat and then I could not even stomach food for the rest of the day. That does not happen anymore. My stomach has found a way to digest in the way that it did before. Now that I could say that to you and you might think that that's bad news, but I don't necessarily think that it is, because those are the only things that I feel like really changed as far as like what the effects of GLP-1s are. The main effect for me, I've said this so many times, is the food noise thing, and that has not come back. So even though my body has figured out a way to digest normally again, and it's not the stomach emptying is, I don't know that I can say, because I don't really remember 2.5 years ago what my stomach emptying process was, right? Like that person and how my brain and stomach used to function is not on my realm anywhere anymore, and I don't really remember how she felt. But I do know that it is definitely different than what it was before, like in the very beginning. So I don't know that I can say that it's completely gone back to normal, quote unquote, but it's definitely adapted slightly to where my stomach is emptying faster than it was in the very beginning of my journey. Now, food noise has not come back at all. And that's the biggest portion for me, is what it does for me mentally. So I still have no food noise. I still don't have any cravings. And even though I get hungry, and sometimes I will get hungry for a specific thing. Like I will see cake at a birthday party. I'm like, oh, I would love to have a slice of cake. I wouldn't classify it as a craving in the same way that a craving, like I have to eat that, cannot stop myself, was before. Now it's, oh, I would love to have a small slice of cake, and I can eat a small slice of cake without, binging on the entire cake. So for me, what this has developed into, which I think should be the goal, again, I'm not a doctor, but should be the goal of what all of us want, is that I have just enough help from the GLP-1 to make it livable long-term. I would not want to go back at this point to feeling like I did in the beginning of my journey. You guys know I had a lot of side effects. I don't want that now. I'm at a point now where I want what I have, which is no food noise, no cravings, more space in my brain and sort of mental clarity that I didn't have before. But also I get hungry and I can enjoy food again. Because in the beginning, you can't enjoy food. In my experience, I did not enjoy food. There was no pleasure to be found from food for me. And I know that a lot of you guys experience that as well. I think we're gonna actually do a video on that topic, but now I can find pleasure in food again. And I can, if Chris says, what do you want to go for dinner? I want Mexican food tonight. I can actually find a type of food appetizing and not want to vomit the second that I see it. So it's definitely evolved, but I would not say that it doesn't work. I would say that it evolved in the way that it was supposed to for me to make it work and make it last. I would say that I have just enough of the effects of the medication to where it's the medicine is helping me and I'm helping myself, versus having too much medication and it's quote unquote easy and I don't have to do any work, because I don't think that's necessarily good either. We should be changing our eating habits and trying to move our bodies more and trying to do the right things. And yeah, I think it's an evolutionary process. And so to say it stops working, I think is doing it a disservice. I think it just evolves with you as you evolve on your journey, and it sort of naturally evolves into what you need it to be for it to last long term for you. And for me, I need the food noise gone. I can handle my stomach growling, because another point that I wanted to make is that when I start eating, so say I get hungry and I eat a meal or whatever, I still get full really fast. So I can't tell you the last time that I had a massive plate of food like I used to eat before. My overall portion sizes are just smaller. I have trained my brain and my stomach that I don't need as much food. You know, the higher doses and the working quote unquote better in the beginning has allowed me to train my body to know what it actually needs. And so when I eat, I get full faster, I'm satisfied longer, because I know what my body actually needs and I'm in tune with it, and I'm not just filling it because my brain is telling me to fill it. So for me personally, I think it still works. I think it works in the way that my body needs it to now, and it just evolved with me in the way that it needed to. So I, of course, want to hear your thoughts down below on this as well. We can definitely have an open conversation about how you have been in your journey. If there's anything you disagree with me on, I welcome disagreement. I don't welcome like rudeness, but I definitely welcome disagreement and, you know, giving your side of things. So don't feel shy. And yeah, thank you guys so much for watching today's video, and I will see you guys in the next one. Have a great day, guys.